What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to take a look at the best and worst masterpiece and third-party Transformers for 2019. I do have a couple disclaimers to share with you. I'll kind of pan through the figures as we go through them. So first of all, we're only going to take a look at masterpiece and third-party figures that I bought or reviewed in 2019. So if I didn't get it for whatever reason, we can't include it. Unfortunately, that's going to include the MMC Ocular Max Combaticons. I didn't buy those till late. I actually have them on the way now, but because I didn't buy them, I haven't reviewed them, I haven't played with them, so it's unfair to include them here. So we're not going to include them because of that reason. I will review them later on, but they're not going to be part of this top figures. The other disclaimer is there are some figures that I bought that aren't pictured here because I sold them. So that's going to be the MMC Azalea, their version of RC, and the MMC Bedrock, which was a repaint, a remold of a previous figure. So those two are included because I did review them, I did play with them, I did own them. But that's really the rules. And also, this is my preference. So what I'm going to be talking about is what about the figures either stood out to me as really surprisingly good, or just in terms of quality or paint or transformation or whatever it was, or what was a real surprise in terms of problem or problems, multiple. So that's what I mean by best and worst. I don't mean by best and worst that it's the best value, or that it's the best version, or that it's the best of any figure ever made. It really just means that for me, this year in 2019, this was something either really surprising or really disappointing. So with that, let's get into the best and worst for 2019, and we'll start off with the worst for 2019. Coming in at number 3, worst figure for the year, is the Zeta Toys Downthrust, their version of a skydive. Now, this figure is interesting. So one of the reasons it's not higher up in the numbers here is the combined mode. The combined mode on this guy is really, really good. It's just very solid. It looks great, and it's posable in combined mode. But in the robot and jet mode, this thing stinks. It just comes apart. Things flop all over the place. It doesn't really tab in well. It doesn't feel that great either. There's not really any die cast, and even the face is just kind of derpy. You see that, and everything on it just kind of feels this stuff all moves around. And in jet mode, it's probably even worse. A lot of the parts just sort of move on you, especially the tail fin, and it doesn't feel solid, and that's why I put this at number 3 as an individual figure. Now, this did come out in February. I think people have forgotten about this. This actually came out in February of 2019. So it did make the list of 2019 figures, but it also helped to complete the combiner. Now, the Superion combiner, I didn't buy that. I got this individual bot sent to me for review. So I can't put that combiner into my review here, but I will give it an honorable mention that the Superion combiner really is one of the top figures of the year if you can count a combiner in the top. But as far as individual figure, this is not great. Not a great individual bot by Zeta Toys, and that's why it's my number 3. In at number 2, worst figure for the year, is Fans Toys Hoodlum, their version of Hot Rod. So let's talk about this a little bit. This design had come out and was teased several years ago, maybe like 4 years ago, and we were expecting this to come out, and we were expecting to get our masterpiece Hot Rod, and then Takara Tomy announced they were doing a Hot Rod, and everything kind of stopped, right? We didn't really hear about it. Now, it was actually a Hot Rod 2.0 for Takara, because they put out a Hot Rod with their Rodimus Prime figure back in MP09. But then they decided, hey, they wanted a smaller scale figure, so they put out their Rodimus. So Fans Toys decided to put this on the back burner because they didn't want to compete. So fast forward a couple years later, they finally decided to put this out. Now everybody thought, well, in between the time they teased this and now, they must have upgraded it. They must have said, hey, we got to compete with Takara Tomy. We got to make this thing really good. And it came out and it looked like it was an old design. It felt like that. And there's a few things. So there's a lot of gap here in the middle. There's some paint rub that causes the hood of the car to basically scratch off its own paint. There's the posability is a little bit limited in a couple of spots, like the arms don't have double jointed elbows like the Takara Tomy version. And there's a couple of little things, minor things here and there. Overall, I like the look in the car mode and the robot mode, and that's why I kept it. But those things were very disappointing as a fan. Somebody who was waiting for this, somebody that was excited to get this, and you finally got it, and why does it have all these issues right out of the box? And so that's why this is the number 2 worst figure for the year. And coming in at the number 1 worst figure for the year is the X-Transbots Overheat, their version of a drag strip. Now this needs a little explanation because this line is actually pretty good. So they really were hitting home runs with these figures. So they came out with the breakup, their version of breakdown. They came out with crack up, I'm sorry, and then they came up with their I forgot his name, but their version of Wild Rider, which was also very, very good. And then both those figures came out in 2018. So the expectations were high on this line because we got 2 pretty good figures. They were really fun. They looked really good in both modes. The transformations weren't horrible like they've been in the past with X-Transbots. So expectations got set, and the price point on these were even very good as well. This figure came out and it had several issues. So the first was if you transformed it using the instructions right out of the box and you bent this spoiler has to bend down for robot mode. If you just bent it down without paying attention, the clearance between this tab and this spoiler wasn't enough, and you'd end up breaking this tab just by transforming it according to the instructions. And a lot of people broke this figure, and that's just by following the instructions. It wasn't great. Luckily, several reviewers made a point to show this and actually showed you how to shave down that tab so it wouldn't break, and that saved a lot of people, including myself, from breaking it even further. But that's just poor QC, and they could have rectified that in the instructions by putting out a early release or pre-production sample so that they could know about this, but they didn't, and that's an issue. There were several other things. So the roll bar, you'll see my figure doesn't even have a roll bar. That's because I removed it because it broke. A very dainty, delicate piece that was sticking out here to make the roll bar. You actually don't really need it, honestly. I just took it right off because I didn't need it. It wasn't necessary for the robot, and it wasn't necessary for the car, really. But again, another piece that breaks very easily. And the last piece is the arm. There was a rotating piece right here. I'll just show you. And this is the wheel, and this rotates. And you're supposed to rotate all the way around. It has to clear this section right here. And the problem is they didn't put enough clearance, and basically it was putting stress on this joint, and so it broke. So mine actually broke. A lot of people broke theirs, not everybody. And so I was sent a replacement arm for this figure, and I did replace it. It is better now. I am also more careful. I did shave down the plastic a bit to avoid having this problem again. I don't know if you can see that. I did shave it there. But you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to make 1, 2, 3 mods to this figure to make sure you don't break it. Now, while this was beautiful in vehicle and robot mode, breakage is a big issue, and we're at the stage of the game in the third-party world where you can't have figures that break, production figures that break out of the box. So that's why this is my number 1 worst figure for the year. Coming in at number 3 best figure for the year is the Transform Element Op Leader, their version of Optimus Prime. Now, of course, there's tons and tons of debate on the Optimus Prime figures that came out this year. In fact, I myself debated quite a bit on which Optimus Prime figure was best for the year. Ultimately, I decided that I like this one for my top 3, and there's a couple of reasons. One, this is my video, so I get to decide what I prefer. But the reason I picked this is it's really solid. So in robot mode and in vehicle mode, it's a solid chunk. It's got a lot of die cast. The quality, it just feels really good in hand. The sculpt on the head, just the head sculpt is so good. Everything on this feels really good. It feels very high quality, and that's what I look for in a masterpiece. Now, posability is definitely an issue. It's got limited detents. It doesn't have a thigh rotation. It's got a knee rotation, but that breaks the sculpt. And folks like T-Man who look for articulation, this is a big bummer for them, because MP44, which had the best articulation of any Transformer to date, probably, I could argue, that figure blows this away in terms of articulation. But it's not solid. It's got issues. It's got knees that break. There's a ratchet joint that was poorly designed that broke. It broke on mine. It broke on Pink for Life's, and it broke on T-Man's. It had other issues. Things that were problematic, like the paint. I don't have those issues with this, so I'm not worried. I can play with this. I can transform it multiple times. I can pose it. I'm not worried about breaking anything. I'm not worried about scratching paint. And so it's more fun to me than having a figure, a very expensive figure, $450 figure or $350 you bought on Amazon, and having to worry about it, right? This is 220, 140, and I can play with it. I transform it back and forth all the time. So this is my number 3 best figure for the year. Coming in at the number 2 best figure of the year is the X-Transbots Neptune, their version of Sea Spray. So again, a little bit of background on this. So Toy World had come out with their Sea Spray Wave Break, and it was pretty good, and I owned it, and we all kind of wondered, hey, could they do better? And this figure, X-Transbot, nailed it. I mean, they just nailed it. The vehicle mode looks beautiful. The paint is beautiful. The robot mode is beautiful. The number of accessories it comes with is just, mind-blowing. It's got so much stuff. And it really was kind of an eye-opening moment for people that buy figures, X-Transbots, who have a little bit of a track record of having really good-looking robot and vehicle modes, but very poor transformations and poor QC. And they finally fixed that with this figure. The QC is great. I don't have any issues. I haven't heard of anybody else having issues. It transforms it's a very fun transformation. It looks good. It's got plenty of accessories. Interacts with the Bumblebee, Masterpiece Bumblebee. I mean, it just has so much good about it. And it was really surprising to me how good this was. And so that's why this is my number 2 best figure for the year. And coming in at number 1 best figure for the year is the Fans Toys Road King, their version of Motormaster. I'm guessing most of my fans don't find this as a surprise that this is the number 1, but I will explain it because people that don't watch my channel, you're probably going to be wondering, why am I picking this? So it was really a mind-blowing moment when you transform this thing and the trailer and everything disappeared. Now there is a backpack, of course, but we haven't seen something like that in years, right? Transformations have been kind of copied. A lot of the different hardware and just general engineering has been copied quite a bit over the last 2 years, and nothing has really blown us away or shocked us in terms of engineering and design. This shocked me, and I don't know if it shocked others. I think it did, and I felt like it's going to be a moment in history where Transformers went to the next level, right? Well, it's third party, so third party went to the next level, and Takara Tomi's got to compete here. And that's another thing about this, right? They're setting a bar that it really needs to be competed with, and that's kind of why I picked this as my number 1. It also comes with some nice accessories. It's got the gun and it's got the sword. It doesn't come with the combiner parts, but we are still building this set. Now I do have the spoiler. I didn't put this in the top 3 because the transformation is a little bit irritating because you need a spudger, everything's really tight. It is absolutely beautiful in both modes, robot and vehicle mode. I love the look of it. I have no issue with the backpack. Some people have an issue with the backpack. It's a little too, it looks skinny. But I don't have any issue with this figure. I love the way it looks. But I can't put it in my top 3 because I don't feel like they've necessarily blown away the X-Transbots version. It's better, but I don't think it's blown away. This figure blows me away compared to anything I've seen before, and that's why that's my number 1 for the year. So there you have the best and worst for 2019. It's been a great year for Transformers collectors, especially Masterpiece and third-party collectors. We've had so much competition and so much opportunity to collect. I mean, it's just the amount of availability is crazy right now. Also, it's been a great year for me as a member of this community, as a reviewer, as a friend with some fellow reviewers. I've had a great year. I got to go to TFCon. I'm going again at TFCon next year, and I mean, everything about that, it's all about community. It's been really fun, and this is, you know, just toys, but what's really around this is the community, and that's what I really enjoy the most. But thank you for all my subscribers, everyone that watches, everyone that comments, and everyone that subscribes, people that have discussion. You know, this is all about discussion and you know, kind of what do you like. That's what this is about, and this video is about that too, right? This is about my preferences, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily aligned with everybody else's preferences. So I like to share these. These videos are fun for me, but I appreciate the viewers, you guys, and the subscribers especially, for watching and for commenting and for you know, coming along for the ride with me. So we have plenty more coming next year, assuming everything's okay with YouTube. We've got lots of reviews to go, more news videos with my buddies Pick for Life and T-Man 978, more interviews next year. I'm hoping to get some big names. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to reveal any just yet, but definitely stay tuned. It was a great year. Have a good new year. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.